Yo, what's good? It's your boy Dot from Dot Me Now Coaching and Entertainment. For coaching, my links are down below. I also have an Astral Mastery course down below. So if you guys want to master OBEs, out of body experiences, or you guys want to master lucid dreaming, that course talks about how to do that, with both of those experiences. I also have astral divination sessions down below, which can help me to see into your astral experiences, what you're doing, how to increase your awareness in the astral, what's holding you back from astral projection, all these different things. Go check that out down below. I also am currently walking people on my Patreon through different things that I do from my Astral Mastery course in order to boost my astral projection abilities. I've been going crazy with the astral projection so far. If you guys want to see that, go to the Patreon. It's only $10. It's really cheap, bro. It's really, really cheap. It's mad wisdom on there for mad stuff. But I want you to like this video, subscribe if you're new, and let's get right into it. So, for those of you guys who don't know, right, I made a video where the title of it is called A Warning from the Astral, I'm pretty sure. And inside that experience, I'm telling you guys how I was interacting with my father, who is deceased. And he was pretty much showing me how a lot of people are pretty much acting out of the seven deadly sins, and when they do certain actions, it's kind of like making a deal with the devil or making a deal with these seven spirits that rule over the seven deadly sins. However, the seven deadly sins that I was tapping into or that I was seeing is not exactly the same as the seven deadly sins which they talk about in Christianity. Right now, inside this video, I'm going to tell you guys about the real seven deadly sins as well as how to combat them so that way you don't act from these different spirits which are not beneficial to you. So, if that sounds interesting, once again, like this video, subscribe if you're new, and let's talk about these seven deadly sins. Alright, so in normal Christian thought, the seven deadly sins are lust, gluttony, pride, sloth, wrath, greed, and envy. Now, some of these, I just dropped my phone, which has information on it, but let me get that back up. Anyway, with those seven deadly sins, some of those are the seven deadly sins, but the way that I was taught about it, the seven deadly sins are really fear, hate, greed, lust, sloth, depression, and joy. You see, instead of envy, it's actually fear. In fact, envy is usually based out of fear. You kind of fear that you're inadequate, therefore you get envious of other people, Instead of wrath, it's hate. You know what I'm saying? Wrath is actually based out of hate. Then greed is still a sin, right? Lust is still a sin, but lust also encapsulates gluttony because with gluttony and overeating, you're just lusting after food. You see, sloth is also still a sin. Depression is a sin. And then idolatry is a sin. And idolatry is pretty much encapsulating pride because pride is pretty much when you worship your ego and you don't worship your divine self. So let's start back up at fear, right? When it comes to fear, fear is a sin, right? What is a sin? A sin means to pretty much miss the mark. The mark is big in tune with your spirit. Your spirit doesn't operate off of fear. Your spirit doesn't operate off of envy, jealousy, none of that. When you're envious, when you're jealous, you just have fear that you're inadequate. And when you have fear in general, you're not acting from the perspective of your spirit. So, in order to combat fear, you need to develop faith, right? You need to develop faith. What does the word faith mean? Well, in Hebrew, faith means to be steadfast, right? It means to be stable in your oneness with your spirit. So if you have faith, that means that you are stable in your awareness of you being in tune with your spirit. I made a song one time called a Koozie Flow. And inside that song, I said, I'm stable to Jed, nigga, you cannot move me. The Jed has a pillar in Egypt because the Jed pillar, right? The Jed, right, is a pillar in Egypt, which is symbolic of the backbone of Osiris. And if you are in tune with the Djed, they call you a Djedi or a Djedi. Oh, that sounds like Jedi from Star Wars. That's where it came from. But to become a Jedi or a Jedi means that you are stable with inside of your oneness with your soul. That's why it's the backbone of Osiris. Osiris is the symbol of the soul. When you are in tune with your soul and you become stable inside your soul's awareness, you become a Jedi. And now because you're so stable inside your soul, you're also able to manipulate your life force energy and use it for higher purposes. You see? That's why the Jedis in Star Wars can manipulate energy and stuff like that, because when you become a Jedi, you can manipulate your own energy and constantly keep it in tune with, your spirit. All right, now for the next sin, you have hate, right? Hate is also something which your spirit does not do, because literally to hate something, you have to see it as separate from yourself. But if you're in tune with your spirit, you see all things as one, therefore you have no hate. That does not mean that you just accept the evil things inside the world. You just understand that all evil is rooted inside of God, source, the most high. Except an evil person is just the aspect of God that doesn't know that it's God, right? So evil people, right? Evil is still coming from source. It's just that it's the aspect of source that doesn't know itself. You see? When you understand that, you stop having hate. When people wrong you, you don't get mad at them. You simply just understand that, hold up, this person is literally a person that doesn't know themselves. That's why they're acting like that. And if I really know myself, I should know not to interact with that person anyway. So to overcome hate and wrath, you actually need love, right? Because when you have love, you actually care for all beings. And that caring for all beings comes from the fact that you actually understand why people do what they do, because they don't have real awareness of who they truly are. And because you also understand yourself and you love yourself, you avoid these kinds of people anyway. Now, next is greed. Now, greed, right, is pretty much when you want to obtain more and more and more and more because you never feel satisfied, right? Greed and lust have a certain tight link, but they're not the same. Because with lust is simply to desire something, right? Lust is when you have a strong desire because you feel like you need something outside of yourself in order to make you feel good. With greed, though, right? You don't have to be in a lustful state to be greedy. Granted, lust can cause you to be greedy, but the thing is, some people, right, are just greedy because they just want more and more and more and more. It's not even like it's like a strong, because like with lust is a desire that kind of controls you. You don't really have control inside lustful states. With greed, you're actually in control. You just want more and more and more and more and more. So they could seem like they're the same, but they're really not. Now with greed, right? When you are a greedy person and you always feel like you need to obtain more, that's because you have a certain hole inside you, right? That hole is coming from not being fulfilled by your spirit, right? If you were in tune with your spirit, you would feel at one with everything, right? Therefore, you would become whole inside yourself and you wouldn't need anything else to make you whole. So with greed is when you're acting in order to make yourself whole by getting other things. Lust is when you're trying to obtain something to make yourself feel good, right? So it's different. Lust is about the feeling of trying to feel good. Greed is about not feeling whole inside yourself. Therefore, you try to obtain several different things. The way which you combat greed, I think they tell you to be generous, but really it's gratitude. Now, generosity does help, but really it's gratitude, right? Gratitude is what combats greed, because when you're grateful for what you have, you recognize that what you have is enough, and you're thankful for what you have. Therefore, you don't feel a need to obtain more. You see? So to overcome greed and constantly trying to get something, and this is why like with greed can make you go broke, because you may spend all your money thinking that you need something whole entire time you don't. You see? So This is why it's important to have gratitude for what you already have, and being grateful for simply being in tune with your spirit. Gratitude is what combats greed. Now the next one being lust, right? See, lust is mixed with gluttony, because when you're a glutton and you're overindulging in food, you're constantly trying to eat food to make yourself feel good, to satisfy yourself. With lust, it's a very strong desire, not just for intercourse, but really just for anything. You could lust literally after anything, right? When you lust after something, it's because you feel like you need something outside of yourself in order to feel good. But really, if you were in tune with your spirit, you would kind of always feel good, and you wouldn't really feel any desire to obtain something outside yourself to make yourself feel good. Now, the way that you combat lust is actually through peace. When you're peaceful, right? When you're at peace, you naturally feel like you have everything that you need, and you naturally feel good inside your own being, and there's no need to try to get something outside yourself in order to make you feel good. This is why peace is the virtue which combats lust. So if you are a very lustful person, you need to learn how to obtain more peace inside yourself, to the point where there's no desires that are trying to move you to obtain something to make you feel good. Because when you're already at peace, you already feel good enough, and it's all good. You feel me? Now with sloth, right? That's also a sin. Sloth is kind of just being lazy and not moving, right? Understand that all creation is based upon movement. Even if you're sitting still, you still have atoms inside your body which are moving. If the atoms in your body stopped vibrating and stopped moving, if your heart stopped beating and stuff like that, you would die. So sloth literally leads to death. And you know what they say, the wages of sin is death. You know, inside the Bible, the overall message isn't even about having eternal life in heaven. It's literally about being immortal. That's why Christ didn't die. He was trying to show you that we are all immortal. If you get into it with your spirit, you can literally have immortality. But I'm not going to talk about that inside this video. My point is, with sloth is a sin. When you're in tune with your spirit, you'll always be active on some level. And when it comes to being active, right? Active don't even gotta be like acting inside the external world. It can simply just be active inside yourself, with your energy constantly flowing inside you. You feel me? So sloth is actually a sin when you're being lazy and stuff like that, you know? And my bad. Like, for example, even a monk who's meditating all day, they're doing something, they're meditating, right? So although their body is still, they're still taking action upon something that requires discipline, which other people may not be doing if they're just sitting at home while they just laying on the couch not doing nothing. So the way that you combat sloth is through diligence, right? To be diligent is essentially to take careful, disciplined action, right? Even if that's meditating, you need to be diligent when trying to meditate, because you need to actually take action. You need to literally take disciplined action in order to maintain a meditative state. You see? Even though you're not acting inside the outside world, you're still acting on your consciousness, right? So diligence is the virtue which combats sloth, right? Now we have depression. Depression is a sin. Depression can lead to sloth, but there's many depressed people in this world who are still going to work every day, who are still handling their business. I know I've seen many people who would consider themselves depressed, but they're still actually doing things inside of their life. You see? So with depression, that's a sin, because you should never feel depressed if you're in tune with your spirit. Your spirit does not allow you to be depressed, you know? I ain't saying you gotta be fucking happy all the time, but you'll at least feel at peace and you won't feel depressed. However, the virtue to overcome depression is joy, right? Joy is the virtue which helps you to overcome depression. Instead of being sad all day, you have a natural joy and a natural zest for life. When your spirit is flowing through you and stuff like that, you naturally feel joy for whatever you're doing. In fact, many people do things to try to feel something, but really What it should be is that because you feel something, you do something. So because you naturally feel joyful, you naturally do something instead of trying to do something in order to feel joy. Joy is a natural feeling which you can feel, which can make you do various different things. You don't have to do anything to feel joy. I mean, if unless you want to say you have to get in tune with your spirit, that's the only thing you really have to do. You got to get in tune with your spirit, and you can naturally begin to cultivate joy, and then begin acting from a joyful state. And now the last sin, right, is idolatry, right? Worshiping something outside of yourself. See, idolatry in Christian thought is really about worshiping something other than God, but true idolatry is worshiping something outside of yourself. This is also pride, because with pride, you're essentially worshiping your ego, which is not your true self, right? So worship, right? Worshiping your spirit. And by the way, worship just means to like submit, by the way. So like it means to submit to your spirit when you worship your spirit, right? I made a video about self worship and what it really is and how to not be demonic with self worship. Because most niggas self worship is just being prideful, worshiping their ego and not worshiping their true self. And the way that you overcome idolatry is through humility, right? Now, I forgot what humility means in Hebrew. Humility. If my video start lagging, bro, my bad, cause it does do that. You feel me? All right, boom. Humility means to respond or answer. Yes, you need to be able to respond and answer to your spirit. It says, unlike the English word, which derives from lowly, Anava in Hebrew signifies occupying your God given space in the world without overestimating or underestimating yourself. It involves a deep sense of responsibility, accountability, gratitude, and willingness to yield personal status for the glory of God and the good of others. Now, of course, once again, we're not talking about some external God, right? But they also have this also key aspects of Anava, which is where humility comes from, right? Rooted in the idea of responding to one's mission and purpose rather than just being low. So instead of trying to worship something outside of yourself and trying to worship your ego, you have humility to the point where you always respond to what your spirit's trying to get you to do. You see, it also deals with self awareness, right? Occupying one's rightful God given place in the world. Now, instead of saying God given place, it would be occupying your spirit given place. Or if you want to say God given, you just wouldn't see it as a God outside yourself. So when you have humility, right, you're more open to what your spirit's trying to tell you. You are responding to your spirit. You are living out the purpose of your spirit instead of trying to worship something outside yourself and do what somebody outside yourself is telling you to do. Instead, you're doing what your spirit tells you to do. You see? So that is true humility, to respond to your own spirit instead of worshiping your ego or instead of worshiping anything outside of yourself. You're only responding to yourself and your spirit. You see? So those are the seven deadly sins. And these are also the seven virtues which will help you to overcome the seven deadly sins. I learned this from the Astral in my experience with my father and what he was showing me. If you guys didn't see that video, make sure you go watch it. It's inside the playlist that's called Astral Projection. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love you all. Catch you in my next video. Peace the freak out.